My name is Carrie Barnum for New Shelves Books, and we are here to talk about publishing, marketing, and the business of being an author. We've got people live joining us at newshelves.com/FAF, which you are welcome to do any Friday morning at 10 a.m. Or you can always watch the replays over on YouTube, which is simply New Shelves Books on YouTube. So make sure you go subscribe and follow. And we've had a number of emailed questions in as well. So we're going to jump right in. We did not meet last week because of Thanksgiving, and we've got lots of good things to follow up here. So I'm going to jump right in with a question. See, Nancy's question, what are your favorite research avenues to learn what, if any, books have been written or published on the topic that will be my next book? Good question. If you're trying to find out if other books have been written on your topic or how you can stand out, best way is just go to where books are sold. So going directly to Barnes and Noble and searching your topic, going to Amazon and searching your topic is really the best way, because not only have those books been written, they've been published. So there are a lot of books that have been written that will never get published, but we want to see what's actually out there and what's selling. And what you'll find typically is you'll either find a book that was written and is doing really well. That doesn't mean yours can't as well. It means that people are interested in this content and this topic, and your book can shine as well if you do it if you do it professionally and do it well. You will sometimes find books that have been written, maybe even written well, or by someone that has a degree in certain areas or things that aren't selling. And that may mean that there's not a whole lot of interest in the topic. That doesn't mean you shouldn't write your book, but it is something to consider. If we are talking and you're looking at books to see what has sold, sometimes what we see is we see a book that sold that did really well, and it was a specialized book, but it's like 10, 15 years old and nothing new's been done. So sometimes that's also a good indicator that it was popular before and there's chances for you now, and you could be the new best thing. So that's something to consider as well. I love you guys. All right, so we've got that done. I think that answered hopefully for you, Nancy. Let's see. I have heard of the agency or program called Up Viral that promises to increase social media exposure. Um, there are some agencies that are legit that will help you with social media, but what I will tell you is time and time again, I have learned that most of those programs are a temporary shot of encouragement, essentially. The best thing you can do is learn one platform to do your social media or learn ads or do something and focus yourself on it. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't work with an agency for an initial boost, but if you are not learning how to carry that on long term, then you're having to pay that agency long term. And sometimes that meets your goals of what you're hoping to do or how you're hoping to earn money. Sometimes it doesn't. If you're just getting, more social media engagement, or you're getting people to like stuff on your page, but it's not translating into sales or growing your audience, how is it paying you and why does it make sense to continue paying them? Are the things that I would be considering. Also, always, when you're looking for a company, I do a Google search of the company's name plus the word scam. A lot of you can obviously look at reviews, but looking at Reddit pages and things like that can be very helpful as well for kind of vetting that. Let's see. Questions here from Diana. So we've got a couple questions. Let's break them down. Let's see. Question number 1. I have heard mixed things about Amazon categories. A, we are allowed 3 categories for KDP print books. B, we are allowed 2 categories for KDP ebooks. But then some people say you can write to Amazon and request more categories for a maximum of up to 10. What is actually true? What's the current and best advice? So all of these were true at one time, but you nailed it when you asked for the current situation. So currently, you are allowed to have 3 categories for KDP print books and 3 categories for KDP ebooks. This is something that you set up when you upload your book. It's actually in the back end of KDP when you're setting up or your publisher is setting up. You cannot request additional categories, and further, You can only choose categories that are in the dashboard in KDP. You cannot go in and like if there's a category, you can't email them and say, will you please put this book or my book in this category? They're not going to do it. You have to self-serve and do it for yourself on the back end of KDP. So that has changed. You used to be able to request additional categories, but Amazon was tired of people scamming the system and kind of using it that way. So that changed. I think it was last year. So 3 categories for both print and ebook. They don't have to be the same categories. They can be different. In fact, there are more ebook categories than there are print categories. Last time I checked, I think there's somewhere around 1,600 categories altogether for Amazon for books. And you have to choose those right in KDP. Question number 2. What is the connection between bestseller status on print books and ebooks? Are they separate or combined? They are separate. They are completely separate lists. So bestseller status ties into those categories. So there's categories bestseller, and then there's bestseller in the shop. So there's bestseller of Kindle. If you reach the top 100 of Kindle, altogether, shout that loud and proud if you are selling your book, not as a free book, but if your book is selling and is in the top 100 of Kindle, you've reached the bestseller list, and I'd be shouting it loud and proud, even if you're at spot 99. If you're in a category list on, your bestseller in murder mysteries, okay, well, then it doesn't really count unless you reach number 1. Technically, there's a bestseller list that is 100 titles for each category, but people don't really take note of it so much until you get to the number 1 spot. So there are some programs who will say, we will take you to the bestseller list, and they will make sure that you get on a category bestseller list, which is the top 100, but you don't get that pretty orange banner that says number 1 bestseller in whatever it is. And that's typically what people are aiming for, is they want the number 1 bestseller in a specific category. And that is separate by the category, and you can choose 3, and it's separate for ebook and print books. Most of the time when people make bestseller in a category, a lot of times it'll be connected to a ebook promotion, and it will be in a ebook category. So they are separate. And by the way, these things update every hour on Amazon. So you might be a bestseller for an hour and then you might fall off. Just depends on the sales for that day and for that hour is how it's calculated. So it's here for a minute and then gone. Once you make that, you can call yourself a bestseller. You can say, hey, it's a best-selling book, but that banner does not stay on your book. Amazon does not take note of it, meaning they don't do anything different to your listing long-term. And you're actually not allowed to put on your book that it's a bestseller if it reaches Amazon. If you're in the top 100, they probably have different rules. But if you reached a category, you cannot call it a bestseller. You can't put it on your book. You can't make an Amazon medallion and have number 1 on it and do that. They used to allow it, but not anymore. Now you can certainly market it. You can screenshot it and celebrate on social media, on your newsletter list and different things like that, because it is awesome and you should be excited and proud. But I also want to balance that with you all knowing what that means and how you can use it and use it appropriately. So that's the deal on that one. Question number 3, is the bestseller status based on the number of books sold or the number of orders? Important question. So there are, in addition to an ebook and a print book bestseller list, there's also a bestseller list, and then there's a free list. So you can hit free in a category, but it's not called a bestseller because it didn't sell. So there are separate lists for downloads of free copies and bestseller list. Amazon has both of them. You can celebrate both of them, but you're not a bestseller if your book didn't sell. If you gave it away, if it was downloaded, it's not a bestseller. It's number 1 in category. And again, you can celebrate that, but you wouldn't say it was a bestseller. If a person orders 3 of the same book, does that count as 3 sales or 1? Also another good question. So Amazon oftentimes will limit a book to 3 sales if it's in print. If it's ebook, they're only going to let you order 1 from an account. If it's a print book, then it will count as 3. However, their algorithms do calculate those differently to my understandings, to help avoid scams where people will say, okay, I want to have my print book make top in this category. So I'm going to have 10 friends order 3 books all in the same, time frame. They use algorithms that actually search for bulk sales like that. So if they see a bunch of people doing that, then their algorithms kind of say, nah, not happening. And they adjust accordingly. Now it's supposed to be based solely on sales, but there are, of course, some things on the back end, and it's done automatically. Like there's not Tom in the back end of Amazon, like crunching numbers and like this person is number 1 on the bestseller list and this person is number 2. It's all done with AI and algorithm, based on the information from when the book is selling. Yes, Etta, I see your question and I will grab that one in just a minute. All right. Whoops. I'm gonna really try to actually hit the right button. All right, I think those are your questions. Let's see. I'm hearing that traditional publishers want authors to market themselves with in-person book readings, book signings, etc. I'm also hearing internet marketing via social media is a much more successful and contemporary way to get your book moving in the market. Both are correct, Lars. So what a lot of people don't understand is that a traditional publisher, even really big publishers, I will give you an example. I have someone right now who's done very well. It's their debut novel, and they've done very, very well. We were looking at their sales recently, and you see from the time of launch for about 3 months, their sales did really well. And they told me that that 3-month period is when the publisher was, getting them interviews and reviews and on podcasts. And the publisher was really putting some effort behind those sales and marketing. And then you see this decline after that. And that's when the publisher was kind of like, all right, well, we hit our 3-month period and you've done well. Go along and market yourself. We'll keep in touch, essentially was what happened. And a lot of people don't realize that is that when it's a new author, a debut author, typically your lead up to your launch and then about 3 months is what you get from the publisher. Unless you're making a ton of money, they ramp down after that. They'll still do some marketing, but they're not doing a lot. And they are going to invest more in the authors who are also marketing themselves. So authors are, even traditionally published authors, are expected to market themselves. They're expected to hopefully have a social media presence and an online presence, to be willing to do in-person events, to even book their own in-person events, because that is what publishers are looking for. They're looking for great books, but they're also looking for great partners, especially with nonfiction titles, I will say. So it is expected that you're going to do some of your own marketing, whether you're traditionally published, hybrid published, or self-published. You just get some help when you're traditionally published, and depending on how big the publisher is, or what your topic is, if it's your debut book and how much interest it's getting, is how much help the publisher will give you. As far as in-person versus online, this one is tricky. You can reach a lot of people online, and I love online marketing. You guys know this. I do a lot of Facebook ads. I mean, I don't personally spend, I spend other people's money. It's my favorite way to do it. I run so many ads, hundreds, hundreds of $1,000s a year. I run in ads in Facebook and Amazon and different things like that on platforms for authors. And it's a fantastic way to reach a lot of readers. It's a fantastic way to get people started on a series, to get new people. But the thing is that once you reach people one time and you get them reading one book, if you want to keep them around so you can continue marketing and selling to them, you've got to form a relationship, which means you've got to engage online. You've got to get them over to your newsletter so you can market your next book to them, or different things like that. So it is a 2-step process. It's that initial contact and sale, plus the ongoing relationship. There's that old saying in marketing that it is 10 times cheaper to keep a current client or a current buyer than it is to find a new one. And it's true, advertising and getting new people on costs more. It takes more effort than maintaining a relationship and getting that reader to buy your next book. So that's one thing to consider. With in-person sales or events, it takes more time. I will say that your biggest fans, your biggest, the people who are going to support you and are going to like every Facebook post and comment and share, you're usually going to meet those at a in-person event because that is how we make connections. It's not an in-person event, it's things like webinars. You guys, so many people on this call today have been huge supporters of myself and New Shelves for years. Why? Not because I advertised online, but because of the connections, because of Free Advice Friday, where you get to see me and talk to me, because I know year over year what your book's about and what your struggles are and where you live and how are your grandkids doing. That's connection. And so we typically get that kind of connection at in-person events. So that is very often, if you're not super engaged on social media, especially in-person events, is where you will find your deep connections and your lifelong supporters. Those are the people who are going to tell other people about your books. Those are the people that are going to request your book from libraries. Those are the people who are going to show up to your events so you can take pictures with them and not be alone and have, that one person in the bookstore. And that's value of its own right. So I think both are important. I think it's important to know what you do best, what you're most comfortable with, and what you have the capability to do. I have some people who are like, hey, I can't do in-person events. I have crippling anxiety or I have health conditions, whatever it may be. I don't have the time to do in-person events. And so they don't. And we're very successful online. That doesn't mean that if they didn't start doing in-person events as well as online, that they wouldn't be twice as successful. But I don't think it's one or the other. I think they both have their own intrinsic value. Let's see. Ah, well, thank you. Again, it's the relationships. Yeah, going forward, I will be trying a visual pitch deck to stand out from the standard book proposal. Wondering if anyone else here plan to try this new trend. I have actually heard from some agents, they love it. Those agents typically do a lot with screenwriting or with pitching to film. And I've had agents say they hate it. So I do think it depends on the agent of whether or not a pitch deck works well for a book proposal. We did ask Paula about that yesterday on our session on media training. And she said, skip the pitch deck when you are trying to pitch the media. It takes too much time, have a hook and have some bullet pointed sentences or, targets that can be browsed. So that's important when we're doing media pitching versus, a book proposal, which is just longer in nature. Yes. And how do you hook in strangers for events? I think part of it's marketing. I think part of it is sometimes it's marketing, sometimes it's having an incentive, sometimes it's being in places or telling people online, hey, if anyone is here, like for example, I think I'm going to be at IBPA this year in May. I would love for any of you who are in the area. I think it's in Minnesota this year. I have to double check. I don't even know where I've committed to go. But I think it's in Minnesota, maybe. And so I would love for anyone who's going to be in IBPA to connect with me. That's how we do it, is we then harness some of our online communities and tell people or seek people out we know who are in the area and personally invite them. And sometimes things just start small and go bigger. Just depends. Oh, thank you. It's in St. Paul, Minnesota. So that's where I will be in May. For, I'm just glad it's in May. I imagine it'll still be kind of cold, but as I'm leaving New York in the snow, we were having snow squalls all yesterday. I'm not so sad to be leaving the snow, I have to say. All right, let's see. I know we had more questions, so I've got Diana's questions done. Let's see, what is the process to marketing a historical novel to schools and the cost for the packaging? So marketing to schools is one of those things that can be done. It's fabulous. There's so many schools and we love them. So there are school libraries and there are, I believe, don't quote my numbers, but it's something close to like 90,000 school libraries in the US. So that's an awesome opportunity straight through the libraries, but also working with how does your book tie into things that are taught in school? Can it tie into a lesson plan? What grade does it tie into? What subject can it tie into? For example, one of my kids actually, my husband's cousin's husband, yes, my husband's cousin's husband, was talking to my daughter and she was talking about how she likes math. She doesn't get it from me. Obviously, we all know this. And he was like, "Oh, one of my favorite books as a kid was I think The Number Devil, and it's a book all about like math and numbers." That author could absolutely tie that into ELA and math and be hitting up both ELA and math teachers and, creating some type of lesson plan or pitching how their book would fit into the classroom. That works. With a historical fiction novel, okay, well, number one, what age range is it written for? Because there's a vast difference between fourth grade, sixth, eighth, 12th. These are big reading gaps, right? So, what age range is it written for as far as the language? What age range is it appropriate for? Some things we can talk about certain things in history at different emotional levels, but there are some things that we're just not going to talk about with fourth graders that we would talk about with 12th graders. So we really have to know who our book can help within schools and then create a pitch or a lesson plan around that. And that may involve school visits, that may involve just marketing to their libraries. It may be going to individual teachers and saying, "I would love to have this, book adopted in your classroom. Here's why." But first, you have to know before you can market to schools effectively, you have to know how your book serves that school or that student or that teacher. So that's the first step. Let's see. Can you get granular about a pitch to a teacher or department? The first words, for example, mailed letter or email. Most of the time, I'd say email, mailed letter. I know in our school district, you send it to like one building that serves three, four schools. It's going to take a while to get to the right person. If it ever does, I would be looking for an email specifically for that type of teacher, like an ELA teacher or a government teacher, whatever it is. So that is kind of what I would be looking for. And opening letters would simply be, yes, Jane Wood, by the way, who is on our call, is the pro at marketing to schools. She actually has a book. I would hold it up, Jane, but I packed it the other day when I was packing up my office. She has her book, Schools and Niche Market for Authors, and you can find her at Jane Wood Books. And she has been a teacher. She has done so many visits. She's an absolute pro. We also, if you go on the New Shelves YouTube channel and you search Jane Wood or schools, we've had her on Free Advice Friday, and she's had great tips. But I think the opening is just kind of, "Hi, my name is Carrie, and I wrote a book on this that I think would be fabulous for your 12th grade students working on whatever." I think it's very important to cut to the chase. Cut to the chase of what you want and why you're reaching out, is one of those things that I would recommend. All right, let's see. I want to just read through the chat a little bit in case I missed anything. Cheryl, I know you're in Minnesota. I would love to see you at IBPA or around the time that I'm there if you're available. Let's see. Yes. Okay, that's awesome. Let me see. So that's what I would recommend as far as reaching out to schools, at least the initial kind of stuff, right? Let's see. Question from L. When a writer author is shopping around vetting different hybrid publishers, should it be disclosed when talking one-on-one with someone at a publishing house? If they are truly a hybrid publisher, thinking about the IBPA standards, which are useful for vetting out hybrid publishers versus scams or vanity press, then they too are vetting me, and that can take time. I'd hate to wait on one answer before seeking another. So is it okay for them to know that this is a simultaneous submission? Well, I would say absolutely yes. So here's the thing. When you're working with a hybrid publisher and you're pitching your book, it's very much like pitching an agent. Um, Going through and submitting or reaching out to multiple people is fine. And it shouldn't be a secret. I don't think you need to scream it from the rooftops or tell them immediately. But submitting your book, read the guidelines, see if it requires a exclusive submission or not. If it doesn't mention that, feel free to submit other places. Now, if you're talking to them one-on-one and you get, Tara contacting you and saying, well, I love your book. I wanted to let you know I'm reading it and I'd love to set up a meeting. That's the appropriate time to say, wow, I'm so excited. I do want you to know that this is out with multiple submissions at the moment, but I would love to speak with you to see if we're a good fit. And you just work it in there naturally. So yes, I would give them, once they're reaching out one-on-one, and if they show interest in your book, I would let them know that it's out with other places. I also don't think if they have expressed interest that they're reviewing your book, I don't think I would continue submitting until I had an answer from them, but I would not hesitate to submit multiple places to start with. Yeah, no problem. See, I have a client who is submitting her middle grade illustrated children's book to publishers who are accepting direct submissions. She understands that a publisher who might accept her manuscript might not also accept her illustrations, correct? She would like to have me format her book and have it printed with her illustrations in order to have at least one personal copy of her book according to her original version. If she does this through KDP, will she have to assign an ISBN for this personal copy? Will this make her book be considered previously published or affected her chance of publishing? Yes, don't do that. Do not go to KDP. So if this person would just like to have their book printed for them with both their words and their illustrations, super awesome. Do not go through KDP in order to print a copy that doesn't have like a not for resale banner, which is not fun. You do have to actually publish it. It does go into the system. It is publicly available and that would be considered published. Do not do that. You are better off going through somewhere like, I think it's 48-hour books. You can go and print. You can go through Ingram Spark and use it's called a non-distributable SKU, meaning it can't be distributed. So you can go onto Ingram Spark, use one of their free non-distributable SKUs, and you can just print copies for yourself. So that's an option as well. But do not go through KDP. Do not go through Barnes and Noble Books. That is essentially putting your book out there. You are printing it, and then you are hurting your chances of getting published because then it's considered, it's out there. It's out there. You can't take it back. So don't do that. Let's see. Question here from Jane. So Jane's question was, she's written a Christmas short story and would love thoughts on how to best leverage this story to gain website signups while still offering it for free to established readers. And she had some ideas and I responded to them, but I promised to elaborate a little bit. So her first idea of how to use this Christmas story was posting it as a blog post on her website. And my response is kind of like, meh, you can use it as a blog post, but then it's publicly available. You're not making it so people have to sign up for your mailing list, which is not giving you the full value that you want. So I personally would not be doing that. Number two was creating a click to access option where readers provide their email to receive the story. Yes, that. You want to create something where it is required that they sign up with email on your list in order to access the story. My favorite platform for this is going to be BookFunnel. You guys know I'm a big fan of BookFunnel, and I have done like a step-by-step how to use BookFunnel for this on YouTube. So I won't go into all that, but I will say go to YouTube and search BookFunnel, or for those who are on the call, I will drop it in the chat, the link to the video. And I would be doing that. BookFunnel, by the way, is a subscription service. In order to post your stories and require that emails are used for that opt-in, it's $100 per year. I find that it's a great value for the people that I use it with. I even do this. This was traditionally something used by indie authors a lot, and I've started using it more and more with my traditionally published authors and luring them over to the dark side here. And we're growing their mailing list by thousands or 8,000 a year, depending on what the story is and what the genre is. But it's a fantastic opportunity. So BookFunnel, I would recommend. Back to Jane's ideas. All right. You can, of course, also put this on your website with like an opt-in and then auto deliver. So you could just put it on your website with your, hey, join my newsletter and get a free short story and put it as part of your auto delivery cycle of when someone signs up for your newsletter, they get that short story. And you don't need BookFunnel for that. You could just do it through like MailChimp, MailerLite, something like that. So that's an option as well. Option number 3, sending it out directly to my email list as a holiday gift. Absolutely. I think that just because someone's on your mailing list doesn't mean they shouldn't get your super awesome story. In fact, they should be the first to get your super awesome story. So I'd recommend that you do email it out directly to your list. Now you can say, hey, click on this link and you can access it through BookFunnel so they can download it easily, or you can just put it right in your newsletter, actually just put it in there, depending on how long the story is. But absolutely treat your contacts, the people who are following you, the best. Make sure that they get that story first and that they are given that piece of content that they've been waiting for. Number 4, using it as a prize for engaging with my content, such as commenting on a post or sharing a link. I said I thought this was too much work. You can do that. You can create a BookFunnel link, and as people are engaging with your comment, you share it with them. Now, if you were going to do that with BookFunnel and it was then going to put them on your email list, you could do this. You could kind of get commenting and get people to both up your engagement and people from social media to get your BookFunnel link. That's possible. Just know it's going to be a lot of work. Like you have to then monitor your social media post and then be messaging these people individually. So it's an option, but I would absolutely positively be using something like BookFunnel, where if you give them the link, they then automatically sign up for your email list. And just keep that in mind. And the goals that Jane was sharing is that increase website signups and build my email list for future engagement, strengthen reader loyalty by offering a special festive gift tied to her series, and generate buzz and attract new readers who might become fans of the series. So I think this is a brilliant idea. Anyone who works with me know I'm a big fan of, oh, you can write a short story. Aren't you bored? Don't you need more to do? Give me an email opt-in. And I think that it's a brilliant idea. I do think BookFunnel is going to be your easiest way. It's a little late in the month or little late in the season to be a part of like a BookFunnel swap, because that's one of the things you can do is you can find a swap of a bunch of authors offering up like free mystery stories or free Christmas stories, and you can all kind of amplify each other's voices. Talked about that before. So that usually most of them start at the beginning of the month. Some of them start kind of midway through the month. So you can look for that as well. But I'd be planning ahead for next year, reuse that same Christmas story in that way for new readers. You don't necessarily send it to your current readers, or you could say, some of you read this last year and some of you it's brand new, but here's this Christmas story again. But holiday content, pull it out every year. It's like a Christmas decoration, right? Like we all have those Christmas decorations that come out whenever. I'm not judging you if it's before Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving, but we all have that stuff. Create your holiday content like that. Like, oh, I've got this Christmas story coming out. And you can kind of do new and exciting things with that every year. Yes. Jane says, I think I'll do BookFunnel and email directly on my list. I don't like work. Me neither. Jane, I am all about working smarter, not harder when possible. It's not to say I'm not a hard worker. I just like to make it as easy as possible when I can. All right. So let's see. Can people order copies at Ingram Spark and KDP at same time on your website? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Cheryl. You might need to expand. Ingram Spark, people don't order from Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark prints the book. They would order from Ingram or from the retailer or the bookstore that's carrying the book from Ingram. So people can order there. KDP allows people to order from Amazon. Can you sell directly from your website at the same time? Absolutely. You just have to have a point of sale system, and you have to think about how you're going to deliver those books and make sure it's timely and cost effective. See, I have two free short stories that I have been placed in an anthology book several years ago. I believe I still own the stories. Can I reuse these stories for this same process? That is an excellent question. And the answer is, and also for people who wrote short stories for magazines. Like I have one client who has written short stories for the Alfred Hitchcock magazine, and they were featured there. And then that when you're placing a story in a magazine or in an anthology, you need to read the contract around it. Most of the time, there's an exclusive period. It may be a year, it might be 2 years, might be 7 years, but read that clause to see what the exclusivity period is. A lot of magazines, it's 6 months or a year. So then we were able to use those stories after the initial year. For anthology, since it's a printed book, it might be longer. The licensing period might be like 7 years, but read that. If you are within your rights to use it, then absolutely reuse it. Again, work smarter, not harder. If you already have content lying around, let's use it. Let's see. I'm gonna do Deborah. I did not forget you in your author bio. Just letting you know, I'm gonna do that at the end because I got screen share. I can't even think of my words this week. All right. I recently lost my manuscript of 24,000 words, like a third of my number for in my series. Well, I hate that for you. I hate when I hear that happen. Funny thing is, I haven't totally freaked out yet. It is about a hurricane, and I lost it during the hurricane here in Florida. Where on my computer can I look for it? Kim, I wish I was more computer savvy. I would be looking for someone who's specific in computers to help. This is one reason why I do personally recommend you back up things on the cloud. Email it to yourself when you're done, have a weekly schedule where you email your own manuscript to yourself so it's in your email, back up to the cloud, have it on your computer as well. But as far as where to find out on your computer, I'd be going to Google, YouTube, and my best computer friend, because that is not my specialty. So I'll leave it at that. But I am sorry to hear that. If it's encouraging at all, I have heard of people who have lost their manuscript and then they rewrote it and it was better the second time. That's not to say that I don't feel for you, but maybe you'll be even more inspired this time. But I do hope you find it. All right. Now we had Miss Deborah on the line was asking for help for her author bio and which one to use, and which one was better. And so she has graciously sent over her author bio, and asked which one, well, two things. She's asked which one to use. I think the difference was the picture, so we'll take a look at that, but also for a critique of her bio. So we are going to do that today. Because I was just talking before our call today, I was talking to Bill Harrison, Steve Harrison's brother, and we were just talking about we couldn't believe how many authors don't have an author bio and don't have an author bio online on their like author profiles like Amazon and places like that. And it's really important to have your author bio. So I am going to share my screen and I'm going to share the first one first, and then I'm going to go over to the one we're going to spend most time on. You should see my screen, a Word document, and you can see a lovely picture of Deborah here. And I am going to recommend that you use the other photo, and you'll see why when I share the other screen. But I just wanted to point out, I believe that's the only difference is the author photo here, Deborah, you look lovely, absolutely lovely. But let me stop sharing on the other one so everyone knows what I mean when I say this is the one. All right. And here's the other one. And there's a couple of reasons why I like this photo better. Hopefully everybody can see it. So sharing my screen. This photo, number one, looks a little bit clearer and more updated. You also have this vibrant color that helps you stand out. And I think that you just have a shimmery, happy quality in this one. You are lovely in the other photo, but this one I think just stands out and gives a little more personality. So this is the one I would choose for you. When looking at your bio, there is a couple of things that I want to mention. You should have multiple versions of an author bio. You should have an author bio that is a long bio that goes into your personal, this is who I am and all that kind of information. And you should also have shorter tag bios. You should have like a 50 character bio. You should have a 100-word bio. You should have differing lengths of bios because sometimes you need shorter bios and sometimes you need longer bios. So, for example, I recently have been asked for some presentations I'm doing. I needed a 100-word bio, 100 words or less. I think I sent them 88. I have been asked, hey, I just need a tag bio. I need a sentence. So you should be able to distill into different areas for your bio, and having those written and available is absolutely makes your life easier. Some other things that I want to mention is that we typically are going to talk about your professional experiences, any published books or relevant work, and then have a personal tidbit. I'm a big fan of a personal tidbit because, again, it builds that, oh, I know you or I relate to you. So going in here, Reverend Deborah J. Bell is an ordained minister, author, facilitator, wedding officiant, and healthcare advocate who cares about others and shares a heart of love. She is enthusiastic about helping people to take care of their heart spiritually, physically, and emotionally. Reverend Bell speaks to small and large groups, including adults and youth, about the love of Jesus and inspires them to develop harmonious relationships with Him, oneself, and others. Wherever there is a need for an inspiring and uplifting message, you can depend on Reverend Bell to deliver with zeal. I have had very, very few contacts with Deborah, but I can tell you she is like a bright, happy spot of joy when you talk to her or get an email. And I think that comes through here. So I think this is good. I would say, when possible, cut the extra words. For example, we want to go for these titles here for the most commonly known. So, ordained minister, absolutely. Author, yes. Now we have facilitator. I don't necessarily know what that means. A facilitator of what? I would be getting rid of that unless it's some title within your work that's very commonly known. I'd probably be getting rid of that. Same thing for wedding officiant. If this is a big part of your work, leave it. If not, it's one of the things I would leave off. For example, I have been a president of a boosters club where I volunteer. Doesn't go on my bio though, because it doesn't necessarily apply to my bio. And a healthcare advocate, I believe, again, is important to your work. So those are some of the things I'd be thinking about is, do I need these words? Can I say it in fewer? And if I only have people's attention for this first paragraph, have I done what I need? Because a lot of people will only read first paragraph. Important to know. Let's go on to the second paragraph. Reverend Bell is the author of 2 books, The Ultimate Best Friend and The Dawn of a New Heart, a guide to self-discovery and cultivating harmonious relationships. She enjoys sharing wisdom and inspiring people to elevate the spiritual and personal aspects of their life. Reverend Bell wrote both books when she was at a low point in her life. She has experienced the death of her mother when she wrote The Ultimate Best Friend, and a severe back injury when she wrote The Dawn of the New Heart. Writing helped to analyze her life and turn the setbacks into comebacks. While I appreciate these details, I think this is one of the things that we could allude to rather than specify. So I personally would recommend, she enjoys sharing wisdom and inspiring people to elevate the spiritual and personal aspects of their life. Reverend Bell wrote both books when she was at a low point in her life, comma, I mean, I throw commas around like confetti, but comma, um, uh, through both the loss of her mother and a severe back injury. So rather than telling us which low point connected to which book, because these things don't necessarily for a general audience tie in, I would make that shorter and just mention that those low points were these 2 things if if it ties into your story. I love this sentence of writing helped to analyze her life and turn the setbacks into comebacks. I love that point. Reverend Bell received a Master of Divinity degree at Regent University. That's fun. I actually am moving back to the Virginia Beach area where I grew up. Very familiar with Regent University in Virginia Beach, Virginia. She also studied at the University of Maryland, receiving a Bachelor of Science degree in Human Resources Management and a Master of Science degree in Management and Healthcare Administration. I think that this is one of those things that is fantastic. It's giving us your credibility of writing on these topics. So by telling us your degrees, I think is important. And this is well and quickly stated. Reverend Bell studies the Bible daily and other spiritual and academic literature, keeping abreast and prepared to follow God's plan for her life. She is a living witness to the scripture found in Mark 9:23. Anything is possible if a person believes. With a joyful spirit and a passion for teaching, Reverend Bell encourages everyone to discover the joy of living with purpose and harmony by adopting this empowering motto. Believe the best, expect the best, speak the best, and you will receive God's absolute best. When Reverend Bell is not guiding others on their journey, she's enjoying spending time with her family, friends, and grandchildren, finding joy in the simple yet profound moments of life. She loves to eat good, healthy food, go to the beach, take long walks, and express plenty of laughter daily. I'm going to stop there and say, if you were doing a professional bio and you needed it short, I would stop here with kind of this moment. I think it ends on a note that is kind of your character and your what am I thinking of? Like your pizzazz here. And so I'd probably end here. If you're doing a longer bio where you need to have your information, then I would do that. In your bio, I would typically say you can learn more about Reverend Bell on her website and give the website name. Maybe an email. I would not list your phone number unless it's a business phone number and you're hoping people will reach out to you. Otherwise, you will get a ton of spam. One of the reasons I rarely answer the New Shelves phone, and it goes to voicemail. My voicemail says, "Hey, I check this sometimes, but you should email me." And one of the reasons is because we get so much spam calls. If I was dropping everything to answer the phone, not only am I on calls, and that's not possible, but it filters out so many calls that I didn't even need to pay attention to. So I would not put personal information like your phone number out there generally. But I think this has really good bones. I would just look at it and say, where can I simplify, clarify, or cut? And the tips that I kind of gave would be my points. And then think about, if I have to do a shorter bio, do I just pull this first part? Do I, add other things in? I think that if you need a shorter bio, you probably should mention your books. So maybe combining these two, but shrinking them down. But I think that this photo is brilliant. One of the things a couple of people have mentioned, the outfit, and part of what helps is that you've got this brighter outfit, you've got those jewel tones, the kind of bright that stands out on your skin. And so that is, it's fun for the eye to look at. So those are just a couple of bio tips that I would recommend. And certainly you can dig in there more. And where do you upload your bio on Amazon? You upload your bio on Amazon through Author Central. If you have not claimed your Author Central account, you have a book published on Amazon, you should. It's free. You go to author.amazon.com. You sign up for free for an Author Central account. You can put your bio in there. If you have not claimed your free Goodreads author profile, you should do that and put your bio there. You should put your bio pretty much everywhere that you can access it, because it's one more spot that you can connect to your readers. It's a way for them to know you and see you, and your website, different places like that listed there. I have one more thing to cover before we go. I know it's at the end of the hour. One more thing to cover, and I just wanted to mention, for those of you who did not know, Taylor Swift has recently self-published her own book. It's the Eras Tour book. It's being sold exclusively at Target, and she essentially said she didn't want to go through with a bunch of middlemen. So she self-published with a team, I'm sure, and she did this with an agent. She worked with Target. It was exclusive. It went on sale last Friday, I think, a week ago. So the book, they had 2 million copies of the book that was distributed across Target stores. And in the first 2 days, Friday and Saturday, this book sold 814,000 copies. It's Taylor Swift. We're not surprised. According to Circana Book Scan, that was the second highest book sales in a week, because they count a week starting on Monday through Sunday, I believe. And the only one that sold more was President Obama's A Promised Land, sold 816,300 print copies in the first week of sales, but that was a full week. So if T Swift had actually had a full week, she might have beaten that. But this is what I wanted to say about this, because I think it's so pertinent to all of us into self-publishing here. There have been reports of issue with the book, pages missing. There have been reported problems of the writing not being very smooth or edited, of misspelled words. And I just wanted to say here, for all of you who have ever been frustrated because you heard that there was a error in your book, or you got a printed copy of your book and a page was upside down, or any of the so many things that can happen in publishing. If it can happen to Taylor Swift, who has a ton of money, a big team, and a lot of help, no, it's going to happen to you. It can happen to you. And that doesn't mean that you did any, well, I mean, you may have done something wrong, let's be honest. But it doesn't mean that you're a bad author or that you shouldn't publish. It means that we have to hone our craft. We have to work on it. We have to treat it like a business. And even when doing our best, sometimes mistakes are made. It's just how it works. So really, it's all about what we do going forward. If we notice an error in our book, do we fix it? If there's a print error and a customer says my book is, there's a problem with my book, do we help them fix it? That's all we can do. So I wanted to share that, not because I'm gloating that Taylor Swift has had some errors in her book, because I was an original Swiftie. We've talked about this. I was at a concert for her when she was an opener. She stole the show, no surprise. But it's one of those things that I'm just saying that if even Taylor Swift, who has all of these resources when self-publishing, has had struggles, guys, we're going to have struggles too. And that doesn't mean we should quit. It just means that's part of the process. So be encouraged. If you have, ordered your 10th proof because your graphics aren't exactly sitting like you want, or different things like that, just know it is part of the process, and it can be frustrating. But that doesn't mean that you're not meant to publish or to get that book out. So be encouraged with that. Thank you for being here today. And as I said, I'm a hot mess today, but thank you for your graciousness and showing up. We will be back next Friday for anyone who would like to join us then, open Q&A. And also, again, if you were not able to watch Paula Rizzo's training on media and how to, do camera well in interview, it was truly fabulous. The replay is going to be up through Sunday night, and you can find that at newshelves.com/media training. It's also up on YouTube. So there you go, guys. Thank you for being here. I will see you guys next Friday. Have a good weekend. Bye, everybody.